I'm Carrie, and it's Sunday, August 20th. This is Student Loan Chit-Chat. Thank you so much for joining me. I am sitting in the car, as you can tell, and actually parked in front of my place. And if it starts to rain all of a sudden, I will pause this and run up the stairs. I do prefer to film outside just because the lighting's better and all of that. All right, so with that said, let's talk about realistic expectations, especially for young people coming out of college. But before we jump into that, okay, a quick thing I want to note is I've been watching a lot of TikTok videos. I'm not sure if that's anything to brag about or not, but hey, you know, I've been watching TikTok, and one of the things that a lot of TikTokers, especially the younger folks in their 20s, are saying is things like, how come I cannot get a mortgage when I am able to pay, let's say, $1,700 a month rent, and I apply to get a mortgage, and then the mortgage company says to me, oh, you don't make enough money, yet at the same time, I'm able to pay $1,700 a month rent. Now, don't get me wrong here, okay? I am anything but on the side of big banks, all right? So with that said, here's what you have to look at, and you have to look at it from a really objective sort of viewpoint, okay? The reason you can't get a mortgage is because a lot of people, especially young people, don't understand it's not just the mortgage that you're really applying for. Yeah, it's the mortgage for the house you're applying for, and maybe some of the I think it's called PMI, the insurance that goes along with it if you can't make your 20%. But it's actually more than that. You're also having to cover homeowners insurance, property taxes. Those two variables, talk to any homeowner in Florida, okay, including myself in a condo even, all right, rates are going up. Those rates are variable, meaning those rates can change. So a mortgage company is not just looking at, okay, this is the cost of the house and the insurance that goes with it. What could potentially happen in terms of property taxes and homeowners insurance, unexpected repairs? This is why even though a person can pay, and I do put pay in quotes because I think the rates are ridiculous, and I think a lot of people are having trouble paying it, and I don't blame them, but it's why you can pay $1,700, $1,800, $19,000, $2,000, whatever, okay, a month for rent. But then you go apply to get a mortgage, and you're thinking, hey, you know, I'm applying for a mortgage at $1,100. This mortgage is $500. Just throwing out a number, okay? This mortgage is $500 less than what rent is, and yet the mortgage company says I don't qualify. Right? So that's one reason. It's not just simply, excuse me, it's not just the mortgage the bank is looking at. The other thing you have to remember, this is also having it be a bank or any other lending institution. They know that if you go belly up on it, excuse me, I just got done at the gym. And you know I'm lazy at editing, so I'm not editing that out, so forgive me. All right, so they know that if you go belly up, let's say, on your rent, who does that affect? Just you and maybe your landlord, okay? You and your landlord, that's it. But if you go belly up, non-pay on your mortgage, now somebody's at a loss. Somebody other than you, well, and your immediate landlord, okay? Now the mortgage company is at a loss. So the mortgage company has to weigh, okay, yes, I understand you can make a $1,700 a month rent payment, but if, you know, in the case of a job loss, the thunder's coming. In the case of a job loss or anything like that, if you wind up being unable to pay it, now the bank is also on the hook. See how that works? So that's just something to consider. Not saying it's excusable, not saying it's fair, it's right, okay? I think if someone is able to show that they can make a $1,700, $1,800, $1,900 a month payment for an apartment and they can get into a mortgage, I think, you know, no evictions on their records, steady payment, you know, I'm all for giving them the mortgage, but I'm not, you know, I'm not the bank. So that's something to consider, is the bank's looking at, okay, yeah, you can pay it, but the bottom line is if there comes a day, you know, for whatever reason, and you can't pay it, now the bank is going to lose money in addition to you, all right? So there's one way to look at it, okay? The other thing to look at, moving on to the second topic I want to talk about, and that is realistic expectations as a young person coming out of college. Now then, here's the situation. You know what? I think it's starting to rain. Remember I said to you, if it's starting to rain, we're going to hightail it inside. So hopefully it won't rain too badly out here. All right, I'm going to stick in the car just a little bit longer. If it like starts to, get ready to downpour, I'm hauling in, okay? So anyways, here's the thing. The economy is horrible. We all know this. Inflation is probably in my adult life at 56. I think it's the highest and the worst I've ever seen it. And the hard thing is this, and this is what I'm seeing. I think a lot of young people, yes, you've been misled about student loans and debt and how that works. And of course, there'll be more videos coming up on that topic specifically. But there's also something else in addition to how student loans work. And they work like credit cards, people. It's just under the name student loan. I will preach that 100 times on this channel. Student loans are no different than credit cards. The reason your student loan is not going down, even though you've made flawless payments on them, is because the monthly payment you're making, most likely income-based, okay, most likely income-based, it's not high enough to reach into the principal. So just like a credit card, if you're paying less than what it takes to reach into the principal, all they're going to do is just keep your balance going higher and higher. All right. If it takes, let's just throw out a number. It takes you paying $300 a month to reach the student loan and to reach the interest and the principal. It takes $300 a month, but yet you're set up on income-based payments to pay $200 a month. Well, guess what? You're $100 short of even being able to get into the principal. So the following month, your bill's going to go up. Okay, I will preach that 100 times because I have watched numerous TikTok videos and people don't understand that. I didn't understand it either. I didn't realize just how related they are to credit cards, all right? So student loans aside right now, I want to look at realistic expectations for 20-somethings, early 20-somethings, okay? First off, a lot of you 20-year-olds, you guys need to stop watching these TikTok videos with people driving their fancy cars, living the high life on the seas in their luxury boat. Most of that stuff is leased. Oftentimes they're broke. And a few times, some of those YouTubers and TikTokers have even wound up in jail. Okay? Because it's just all a big facade. Let's take it down to earth. Let's take it down to Main Street every day. All right? Many of you, and I'm not faulting you for thinking this, all right? Because you've been misled about student loans, so where else have you been misled? I think many young people come out of college thinking, well, I've earned my degree, so where's my, 4-bedroom house, 2-car garage, all right? Preferably a somewhat luxury designer car. I'm ready for it. And I'm 25 years old. Let's just throw out, a average age. I'm going to be honest. The one thing that I will tell you that I was brought up on, okay? Most 20-year-olds don't have that yet. They may not acquire that until they get into their 30s, mid-30s. Okay? When I went to school, and yes, I know I'm 56, and I went to school in the 80s when student loans were a lot better. But let's just temporarily put that aside. Put the student loan aside. What were my expectations when I got out of college? I did not expect to have, a 3-4 bedroom house, a 2-car garage, or even a car for that matter. Okay. Hopefully the car. But what I'm saying is, I think a lot of 20-year-olds in this day and age, if I look at the, the social media. Okay. Social media has got a lot of young 20-year-olds believing that they don't have to have roommates ever again the minute they step out of college. Not necessarily true. A lot of 20-year-olds stepping out of college think that they are all of a sudden supposed to be able to magically afford a car. I took the bus. Yeah, I had a car, I think, my senior year or so of college. Really briefly, took the bus for years, okay? And then eventually, a few years or so after I got out of college, wound up with a car and all of that stuff. And the car that I did have when I was in college was a really inexpensive car. I mean, really inexpensive. I think I got for like, $1,700. Yes, I'm aware it was the 80s, but it was like a Datsun hatchback B210, okay? Absolutely nothing to brag about, but it got me around from A to B. But the thing is I think a lot of 20-year-olds, because of the age of social media, are under this impression that the college degree is going to automatically buy them the American dream. Now, I will say, you were falsely told that, all right? You were. But at the same time, I'm here to help try to correct that expectation, okay? You may graduate from college and have to have roommates, especially at the cost of rent right now. If your rent's $1,800 and you can find a roomie, get a 2-3 bedroom place and split that, you can cut your cost of living in half and be saving that half. But I think, unfortunately, the age of social media makes everything seem so fast. Need money? Just rent property. But they don't tell you about, are you a good landlord? Can you, handle the loss of vandalism to your place? Do you have it in you to deal with tenants that could be potentially violent? Do you have it in you to, drag people to court for a judgment that may never get paid? Everything on social media makes it seem like every 25-year-old has all of this stuff, when in reality, that's not the way I was raised with it. Then again, we're putting aside the student loan, we're putting aside the economic conditions, but I want to focus on what's realistic. What are the expectations? And social media, in my opinion, has made it seem as though the minute you are out of college, that is the answer to every dream and prayer you ever had. No, it's not. You may have to have roommates for a few years, several years out of college, especially now. Okay, some of you may find yourself, you're riding the bus, you're riding the metro. Okay, I lived in Portland, Oregon, rode the bus, didn't have a car there. And believe me, if I didn't have to have a car in Tampa, I wouldn't drive in Tampa either. The freedom of not having car payments and insurance is outstanding. Okay, I only drive a car in Tampa because I have to. Okay, if I moved back to Portland, Oregon, trust me, I would most likely ditch the car. All right, because I just rode the bus around in Portland. All right, so you need to kind of lower, in some cases, lots lower, your expectations on what life is supposed to be like outside of your, as soon as you graduate from college. I think what you need to be focusing on in your 20s is getting the heck out of student debt, live at home if you possibly can, get roommates if you possibly can. So when you enter your 30s, you'll actually be able to enter it as close to debt-free as possible. You gotta get off the social media that says you're entitled to a Starbucks every day. And I'm not calling you guys entitled, okay? All right, so just keeping that clear, all right? But social media, if you look at it, those influencers, okay, it's all about the false eyelashes, the hair ombre, and Starbucks in their hand, okay? That's not reality, folks. That's not reality. All right. So I think what people need to do, especially if you're, fresh out of college, even a few years out of college, especially those who are just starting to pay back their student loans for the very first time, because you haven't had to pay on it for 3 years. All right. You need to really lower your expectations of what life really is in the real world versus what you see on TV. What you see on TV is everybody's buying, these great big party houses and they're able to all afford this stuff. That's not the reality. Okay, I lived in when I graduated from college, I lived in a lady's, her garage that got converted into a living quarters. I lived there when I was in college. I had a roommate, okay? So I didn't really acquire my own apartment till I was like 28. And as far as buying a house, that didn't happen till way later. So you're not a failure because you don't have a 3-bedroom house, a 2-car garage, and a fancy car, and a TikTok channel by the age of 26 or even 30, okay? In fact, in my opinion, you're incredibly responsible if you're trying to use your resources to get out of student loan debt before the real world really hits you, okay? To me, that's just kind of what you need to focus on. So, I don't know, it's interesting because I do watch a lot of these TikToks, even YouTube, but more so on TikTok, it seems. And there are a lot of 20-year-olds. You don't hear this so much from the 50-year-olds, and people might go, well, that's because 50-year-olds aren't on TikTok. We're there, just not as, maybe prevalent. I don't have a TikTok channel. Don't really want one. But a lot of the TikToks that I do watch, it's a lot of 20-somethings. And they seem very stressed out because they're not acquiring everything that they thought they would be promised with a college degree. The college degree is just one option. It's one step. It's a choice to get to where you want to go. It's not the only thing. It is not the only option. And unfortunately, I think, and I don't like to use the word entitlement because I don't feel like that's everybody. That might be a certain subset of 20-somethings, but it's not everybody. But I think what a lot of 20-year-olds need to do is they need to maybe come down a little bit to planet Earth. I mean this in a nice way, okay? But you really need to realize, the house that your parents live in is not going to be the house you most likely get right out of school. You may not acquire that for a couple of decades, and that's okay. All right? So anyways, something to think about, food for thought. So I'm Carrie. This is Student Loan Chit-Chat. Thank you so much for joining me. I do hope you will consider subscribing, and have a great day. Bye.